Hi guys, welcome to SosinIAS Academy. This is Hima Hegde presenting before you the current and contemporary affairs in anthropology. To begin with, we have emotions and anthropology. The relation between emotion and social organization has been a theoretical concern in anthropology ever since Durkheim made sentiments crucial to the constitution of society. But it is only in recent decades that anthropologists have made emotion a focus of study in its own right, exploring such questions as the universality of basic emotions and the cross cultural validity of Western psychological categories. Culture and personality theorists of an early generation were concerned with the ways in which emotions became standardized and gave particular societies their characteristic features and personality types. For example, in a pioneering collaborative study, Bateson and Mead argued that the highly choreographed routines of everyday life in Bali led to an obsession with the correct performance of public roles and a fear of slipping that Bateson likened to the anxiety of a tightrope walker. The ambivalent child rearing practices of Balinese mothers created a lifelong disposition to emotional withdrawal or blankness, often manifested in trance, which Mead compared to the behavior of schizoid patients, the schizophrenic basically, patients in the West. The theory purported to explain cultural forms as well as psychological development, that is, rituals and temple dramas, function to express and assert socially induced anxiety. If we were to talk about the rival approaches to the analysis of emotion, simplifying, we can distinguish three basic positions in the human sciences. First, emotions are broadly the same everywhere. They are natural facts, a product of evolution that equip us to respond efficiently to danger and opportunity. Second, basic emotions like anger, fear, disgust, joy, and sadness are the same everywhere, depending on similar mechanisms of appraisal. But emotions are also subject to complex cultural shaping, and the more complex social emotions, such as shame and guilt, are highly malleable. Third, emotions are culturally constructed, reflecting diverse systems of power rather than a generic human nature. The Western view of emotions as internal events based in related to a long history of individualism and a conception of the person as autonomous. In other, more holistic societies, persons are conceived as interrelated and emotions, as such, refer to and constitute social relationships and particular situations. Now, cross cultural explanations and the question of universals. Beyond the recording of ethnographic diversity, there is persistent strain in psychological anthropology towards an explanation of what accounts for cross cultural variation in the emotions, or at least a charting of the dimensions of difference. Schwader, for example, has suggested that cultures vary in whether and to what extent certain feelings are emotionalized. Not all feelings, such as agitation, dizziness, are emotional. Whether a specific combination of mutual absorption, expansiveness, and physical attraction between sexual partners becomes emotionalized as love will depend on there being such a concept in a given culture. We fall in love as we rage and moan to a cultural script. Moreover, the ways in which emotions are held to function will depend on ideas about what constitutes a person and how persons or the things are interrelated. Now, if we were to speak about the new directions in research, in the last decade, rather than breaking new ground analytically, anthropologists working on emotions have occupied themselves with refining distinctions and seeking out new applications. Studies of emotion have shed new light on political violence, religious piety, ethnic affiliation, and kin making. But comparative and theoretical advances have been hindered by two obstacles. First, as most now recognize the conception, context, and experience of emotions are interwoven, theorists of different bent have tended to concentrate on one or other aspect, sometimes joining debate at cross cultural or the cross purposes, or hopping between different kinds of evidence. Second, there are problems with the very concept of emotion. Evidence from around the world has shown that emotion is not always conceived as a distinct category or domain. It is not always predicated of individuals, and it enters into public and political discourses in ways unfamiliar to us and easily misconstrued. Let us learn about bride wealth. The anthropologist Roger Keesing defined bride wealth as marriage payments from the husband and his kin to the bride's kin. Essentially, this means that bride wealth marriages are those in which groom and often his family remit a payment in some form to the bride's family in order to officialize a marriage. Typically, these or these payments balance a transfer of rights over wife's sexuality, work services, residence, and fertility. These payments were traditionally made in the form of valuables. Example, shell valuables in the Pacific, cattle in most parts of Africa, and livestock and jewelry in many countries of Asia. However, increasingly globalized market economies inform the commodities in contemporary exchanges, which can consist of cash, practical necessities and tools, as well as luxury goods. Bride wealth remains the most common form of marriage transaction in the world. Among the 563 cultures listed in Murdoch's World Atlas of Cultures, 226 of them practice bride wealth. The rationale behind bride wealth. Comparative anthropology has shown that bride wealth is most likely to be paid amongst the populations whose main mode of food getting system is horticulture or pastoralism. Typically, these societies are found in East and North Africa, the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Pacific. In many of these societies, when the girl marries, she leaves her parents' family and sometimes her village and continues her life in her husband's village or family. In her newly married life, the bride's labor benefits her husband and at times her husband's family and no longer benefits the families of her birth. Bride wealth is said to establish strong bonds by opening kinship roads between the families of the bride and the groom and to formalize an alliance between the clans. Many speak of bride wealth as a token of respect for the girl and her family and a form of appreciation for the hard work they put into raising her. Also known as bride price, bride token, or under different vernacular names, the practice of exchanging goods from the husband's family to the bride's family upon marriage has been practiced for centuries. Now, speaking of critics, though many individuals in communities where bride wealth is practiced value the custom as a method of linking families, as a demonstration of a potential husband's ability to provide for a woman's future, and more generally, as material expression of the value of women in their societies, the practice is criticized by many. The inflation in the quantity and cost of objects exchanged, as well as the sums of money often demanded in bride wealth exchanges, is roundly denounced even by those practicing it, and creates situations in which some men, particularly those issued from lower or impoverished social classes, are no longer able to marry as they lack the necessary funds. And bride wealth exchange is also criticized for its impact on girls and women. In a number of societies, the practice is said to be associated with child marriages and forced marriage. Moving on, we have the Naga Tribe. Nagaland, a hilly state in the northeast part of India bordering Myanmar, is home to many indigenous tribes, including the Ao tribe. It is considered the second largest ethnic group in Nagaland. They are yet to celebrate a festival, a popular harvest festival called Moatsu from 1st to 3rd May. So, where does Nagaland's Ao tribe come from? Nagaland's Mokokchung district is home to the Ao tribe. Their major expanse stretches from the Ku Valley in the east to Desai Valley in the west. Some studies suggest that the Ao Naga tribe is thought to have originated and migrated from Southeast Asian countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia, and Myanmar. The Nagas are thought to be the descendants of the Mongoloid ancestry who later expanded or migrated to the hilly regions of modern day Nagaland. The Mongsen and the Chongli are two racial groups that make up the Aos. Our tribe, the legend behind its origin. According to one legend, the Aos emerged from Longtrok, which means 6 stones, as 3 men and 3 women. Tongpok and his sister Landina, Longpok and his sister Yongmenela, Longjakpre and his sister Elongshe. They then established a village where they resided and remained for a long time. The Aos eventually crossed the Diku River on a cane bridge, leaving the others behind. The ones who went ahead came to be known as the Ao, which means going or gone. Further, the Aos then settled in a place called Soim, which is now known as Ungma. As the population developed, they gradually migrated over the 5 ranges of land and established numerous villages. In terms of village administration, clan distribution, institutions, and socio-cultural customs, the Aos are highly diverse. The Putu Mandan is the name for their governance system. This government is made up of representatives from numerous clans. A clan is a small group of families descended from a common ancestor. So, now what do they do? The Aonaga community's most fundamental asset is land. Hence, slash and burn agriculture, also known as the jum cultivation, is one of the primary occupations of the Aonagas. Jum is an ancient farming method used by the tribe since the beginning of time. On the other hand, animal rearing is another important source of income for the Aos. Some families, however, also keep cows, goats, and rabbits, other than the commonly raised pigs and poultry. Meanwhile, women make traditional clothing such as shawls, mekhalas, and loin clothes to supplement men's income.